Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today we're going to do a video on, we're going to call this one Alien slash Human Underground Bases and a bit of Thomas Costello to boot. Okay? So I've done other videos, as you probably know. I probably did 4 or 5, I guess, on Dulce. Okay, so I don't want to say I'm an expert at Dulce, but I knew quite a bit about it in some of the recent conferences and my own experiences up in Dulce and people surrounding the whole Dulce conspiracy. So you could go to our Dimensional Walking site and you can see the 4 or 5 videos. Um, I'll probably post. Maybe I'll just put on here on in the detail. I may put the part one of that series, and then you can follow it all the way through the last one. I think there was, like I said, there's 5 parts. I think 4 that I actually called them parts, and the other one was kind of a separate entity itself. I think that was an interview I did with Ryan Burns. So, anyways, underground bases. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Richard Sauder, and the reason I want to do that is he I do consider an expert. He's written several books. He's got some really good information. It's pretty conspiratory. Obviously, it's some pretty wild stuff, but I tend to agree with a lot of the stuff in the book, and I think he did a really great job on some of his books. So check him out if you're really into underground bases. He's the guy. Okay, so underground bases probably started back the probably in the 30s. Some people say in the 30s, some people say in the 40s, after World War II. You probably know that the Nazis were big into underground stuff. Building bases, building facilities underground. Warner von Braun did that with when he was building missiles, V2s. They built a lot of that underground with slave labor. But they really had a knack for building stuff underground, and I think they even talked about them building tunnels too. So anyway, so that's maybe where we got some of our knowledge. Okay, I don't think anybody knows that for sure, but I suspect it did. It did happen. Anyway, so we started building underground. We, the United States, started building underground facilities. Okay, and with those underground facilities came these tunnels, I think they used to call them tube trains, and tunnels, and then they put tube trains in them. And tube trains supposedly go at some huge speeds. Some people said up to 5,000 miles an hour. I don't know. I don't think anybody's confirmed that, but that's the case. And some of them said that there was a tube train from L.A. to New York City. And I have no way. I don't think anybody can confirm that, but that's sort of a rumor. It's a pretty fascinating rumor, but anyway. So these tube trains go definitely between the different bases around the country. Okay, pretty confident in that, and I'll give you some other reasons why I'm confident in saying that. So going back to Richard for a minute, he had an interesting thing I'll never forget in the book, and he says one of his books, and he said he was talking about implants in people's heads, etc. He said it was quite amazing that he even got like he maybe had an implant himself, and he had a voice in his head saying underground bases are real. And he said he never forgot that. I've had some of my own experiences with voices, and I don't mean a lot of times. I had a voice I talk about in when I lived in Georgia, sitting on a bench, a park bench, and I was just sitting there and just kind of enjoying the weather, etc. And just clear as day, this one thing came through, and I felt it was an alien type source. Said, Mike, reality is not what it seems. And I never forgot that. And it seemed to be absolutely true. That was kind of the beginning of my serious study in UFOs and paranormal and aliens. So I never forgot that either. Just like he never forgot the voice in his that told him that underground bases were real also. So again, the Nazis had a lot to do, we believe, and he believes, I believe too, that it had a lot to do with our initial technology in building underground bases. Some people also say there's one underneath Denver Airport. Don't know if that's true. It seems like for some reason the Navy has been very much interested in building underground tunnels and underground bases. I think I've always said that the naval intelligence is really at the forefront of alien investigations and research. They are always been there and always will, even if it's not in the water, it's on land. They're out there. They're in the middle of it. They're always in the middle of it. There's always been talk that some of these bases, of course, are they come three ways. They're either built and exclusively U.S. government bases. They are built by humans. That's number one. Number two, they are built by humans and they are occupied by aliens and humans. And that would be, I can give you the one example is Dulce. On that one, there could be more of those, but the one I know about is Dulce. And number three, they're alien bases, strictly built and occupied by aliens. That one, I can give you one example I think to be true would be Mount Shasta. I believe there's one underneath Mount Shasta. I did a meditation there on the side of the mountain, and I had contact with some beings from underneath that mountain. And I'm not. They weren't bad or anything. They didn't. They weren't aggressive. They weren't mad at me because I was meditating there. They just said, "We're here. We're underneath this mountain, and we have a facility or something like that." I don't remember exact all the words they said, but that was what I got from that. So then we talk about ancient tunnel systems that the Hopis talk about, and those are underground in New Mexico and other places where Hopis are, and they talk about the ant people that come out of the ground and they live in these underground tunnels and facilities underground, and they've been talking about this for a very, very long time. So then I want to talk to you about, let's just talk about the ones that I know about in New Mexico. So I lived in New Mexico for 12 plus years. As you probably, if you follow this channel, I was the kind of one of the founding fathers of the really great group. It's called UFO Paranormal Forum out of Albuquerque. Richard Smith now is the head of it. And so I started that group with other people there and kind of managed it or worked as the main facilitator for that group. Anyways, so in New Mexico, the bases that I am aware of are as follows: underground base and connected. All these are connected by tunnels. It would be in Albuquerque, at Kirkland Air Force Base area in the Manzano Mountains, and then let's see. Then we got Dulce, of course, and then we got Los Alamos. Okay. And then I believe, from what I heard, there could be one under White Sands, at the White Sands in the southern part of the state. And all these are connected with tunnels. With totally an interesting story, two of the people in the group there, had related stories to me. And these were older folks that in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they would be in their homes in Albuquerque. Somewhere between, their home was kind of lined up between Los Alamos and Kirkland Air Force Base, and they would hear at night, and this went on for several years, kind of these rumblings, almost like trucks driving underneath, and kind of a drilling noise, and they could only really hear them at night, and you had in fact, some of them even talked about sometimes the house shook a little bit, and they always were suspicious that it was something they were building these tunnels. Probably between Los Alamos and Albuquerque Kirkland Air Force Base, or Sandia Labs is also over there, as you probably know. So, anyways, also I had a couple other experiences. One of the people from the group, she had talked about her husband was involved with kind of an aerospace type. He was like a scientist And he had her one time. They went up to Los Alamos, and she said she was in the underground facility there, and she actually witnessed and saw it looked like a security guard was actually an alien. It's sort of a little bit of a gray slash reptilian. It was off down a hallway, and she saw it very clearly. And she was, I guess she had kind of just going to the bathroom. Somebody told her where it was. She kind of got herself lost, and that's what she saw. She was pretty much shocked, although she wasn't shocked, because she was been involved in UFOs and paranormal stuff and alien abduction stuff for many, many years. So, but I guess when you see one kind of up close and personal, you are kind of put on shock mode. So, anyways, that was it. I also talked to a couple contractors that did work in Los Alamos at Sandia Labs, and they were told me that they were taken underground to do some work, and they were put they put the black bag over their head, and they were told that if you look up, just do your work, don't look around, don't do anything else, because we have they had AK-47s pointed at their head, and they did have them pointed at their head, they said, and there definitely was an underground facility there, and there definitely was some tunnels there. How they knew the tunnels, I'm not sure, but they said that very clearly to me. So anyway, New Mexico has a lot of tunnels, and it has quite a few underground bases. I don't know if has the most of all the states, but I'd say it's right up there. Again, I know there's some in Southern California, and those are related to the aerospace industry in the southern part of the state. Let's see, where else? That's really all I know of that I could really feel comfortable about saying. I'm sure there's some in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. I have no doubt about that. And they probably are all connected in some way with a tunnel. So, anyways, let's see what else we have here. Oh, okay. So, as I promised, I would talk a little bit Thomas Costello. Thomas Costello I've written about also, and I think he's in probably the Dulce videos I did. Anyways, he's this fictitious, possibly, I think he probably is fictitious in a way. He's probably a composite of one of the security guards in Dulce, okay? And he got some pictures, apparently pictures of aliens inside the Dulce base, and those were spread around the internet, and that was his claim to fame. Now, again, I don't think the name Thomas Costello is a real name. I did some research up in the Santa Fe area and the Los Alamos area. I lived there. I lived in New Mexico, so I had easy access from Albuquerque to get there. So I spent some time snooping around, and I could never find anybody that actually knew this guy personally. Now, I know we're going back a few years, but nobody really could say, but they didn't doubt that there were pictures of these aliens there. So I think Thomas Costello is an interesting character, and I believe he's a composite to protect the identity of the real person behind the photographs and behind the stories of the underground base, primarily at Dulce. Although he does mention other bases in some of the articles and some of the conversations. He does talk about the Sandia Labs, and he talks about Los Alamos also, because as you know, Sandia and Dulce are not that far apart, especially if they're connected by a fast train. Okay, so anyways, so that's really it. I just wanted to give you a little more. I don't want to say a little more detail, but the underground bases are real. They're definitely real, and the tunnels are real. I'm sure there's many of them around the country. I believe there's more in Canada. I don't know too much about Mexico at all. But anyways, it's a very fascinating subject. It is one of the most popular subjects. I have probably the most views on anything dealing with Dulce. So anyways, check out the other ones. And if you have any comments, please comment here. If you want to send us a private email, send it at dementiawalking@gmail.com. And so, happy trails until we meet again. Bye bye.